All right, Mr. Holiday here. This lesson is for students that have Photoshop. Students will learn basic and advanced digital painting techniques using Adobe Photoshop. Okay, let's get started. First of all, you're going to create new, and we're using print. So you want to go to letter 8.5 by 11. All right, and this is for your basic drawing. So you want to make sure that the background is white and you create. Okay, so here's the deal. We talked earlier about making sure that your work is in uh, the art packet. And so in order to get this JBass cartoon painting, sometimes you may have to right click and move to downloads, or right click and make a copy, because taking this JBass painting into Photoshop may be a little crazy, but you'll figure it out. So one of the ways you're going to get it in Photoshop is you're going to place embed. All right, so you go to File and you go to this word. It says place embedded. All right, and you're going to go to the file where it's located, and in my case, it's in video drawing lessons. So in your case, it's either in your downloads or it's going to be in your folder in Google Drive. You want to pick the JBass cartoon painting. All right, so you click on that, and it says place, and it places right to this document. Okay, you hit Control-0 so you can see the whole thing, and that's a pretty good assessment of how it places. We'll move it down here a little bit. Didn't snap in just quite right. So when you want it to snap in perfectly, you hit a Control-0 and it snaps in. Otherwise, you could just move it down a little bit with your nudge tools. Okay, so it snaps in because I made it so that it fits. All right, now in this situation, this is what we call a placed item. So you double click and you apply the placement. Now you have a smart layer over here. This is a smart layer now. It has a little square in it. So you want to right click, rasterize layer. Now you want to right click on this again, where you want to take this layer, by the way, my bad, and you want to multiply it. And the reason why you want to multiply is because it's going to become transparent and it stays at the top. And let's lock it so we don't accidentally paint on it by accident. Okay. Now, I took my layer palette out of the docket so that you can see this. We're going to create a new layer right down here, and we drag that new layer right under the JBass cartoon painting. We're going to call this layer, double click on the word, shirt. And it works really easy. So the tools we're going to use today will be the magic wand tool. Here it is, 4 tools from the top, and we'll come right to the shirt. And when we're using the magic wand tool, we want to be right here. You can see where I'm circling. We want to be add to selection. The first one is selection. This one is add to selection. Add to selection. And so I click right here on that shirt, and I click here, and I come over here to my foreground color, right down here where the 2 squares are at, and I'll get maybe a blue, okay, because I used blue before. And this is a real quick way to do a fill-in. Alt Backspace. All right, and when you're doing Alt Backspace, it will pop right in there. Okay, Alt Backspace will pop it in. And that is a quick way to paint, okay? Now, this has to be on multiply in order to see it. If it's not on multiply, and I'll unlock it real quick, if I put it back on normal, you don't see that. So it has to be on what? Multiply. So this is where your modes are at, right here where it says normal. Do a drop down, multiply. All right. Now, once again, don't paint on this layer. You create new layers. So I'll lock it so you don't paint. Now, let's go on to another section. I'm going to go to shirt. I'm going to create another layer. This layer is going to be called skin. We're going to paint Jay Bass's skin. All right. So I'm in Magic Wand. I select his face, his lip, his neck, his ears, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come to the tertiary family that's in the reddish tone and move it a little bit towards the yellow. It's a little like more like orange, and pick a good skin tone. That's not bad. And you see how I figured that out? So it's kind of like an oranges, burnt, tertiary color. I could add a little bit more red to it if I want, but that's pretty good. And I do it once again in Alt Backspace. Or I can come over to the gradient tool, find the paint bucket. The paint bucket tool is embedded where the gradient tool is at, and use the paint bucket. So let's try the paint bucket this time. And I click one time. Boom, there it is. Now, it didn't fill in this ear totally. So what I want to do is hit a Control D, come back to my Magic Wand tool, and finish selecting this ear properly. Okay, there you go. And this time I'm going to do an Alt Backspace, which is a fill in. Okay, Control D. Now, there's an issue. It's called ghosting. And ghosting in Photoshop, and I'm just going to zoom in real quick. Ghosting in Photoshop is kind of annoying. Control plus to zoom in. You get this like right around the edges where you can see where it doesn't really meet the pixels. And some people say, well, they don't like that. Well, there's a couple tricks to get around that. I could come back to my paintbrush and I could just simply go over that, make sure that the paintbrush is all the way up in opacity. And it could be a hard brush. You see me doing a drop down here. And just simply go over that. But there's another way to do it. And it's a quicker way. And I'll show you this. And it's kind of an advanced idea. So check this out. Come back over here to the Magic Wand. And this time I'm going to select the face on this layer, the J-Bass cartoon. And when I select it, I'm going to select the ear too, on the inside. Scroll over, scroll here, get the top lip. Watch this. I come up here to select at the top. I do a drop down and I go to modify and I go to expand. And I expand that by 2 pixels. And that will go into the black area where I didn't, where I seen the ghosting from before, that little white ghost line. Watch this. Alt Backspace. And that takes care of all of the ghosting. Okay, so that's something real quick. And Control 0. And you could paint this whole J-Bass. Now, you may say to yourself, it looks funny, his eyes, they're not white. All right, so let's zoom in, okay? And when you zoom in, you'll see that, and if you Alt and scroll, you can zoom in. I'm going to use a Polygon Lasso. You can use the free lasso, which is this one. It's embedded here, and this is the lasso tool. But I like the Polygon because it allows me to click and drag with the mouse. Left click and drag. So left click, you make a polygon line by pulling it, left click and dragging. Drag your hand, click, left click, drag, and then you left click again, drag, left click, drag, left click. And so you're making these small polygon lines. And this is a quick way to use a selector tool. And your add to selection, scroll over, get that other eye going. So I'm left clicking and dragging with the mouse. As I'm dragging, left click, you anchor it when you left click. And I'm getting this eye selected, left click, drag, left click, one more, and it closes. And I'll back out a little bit, control minus, space bar, left click, move over with the mouse. Space bar allows you to do this kind of thing. And I'll just backspace or delete. And there's your eyes. Control D to deselect, control 0. Hey guys, have fun painting this. Now there is an open spot up here on the brim, so you will not be able to use the magic wand. You're going to have to use this Polygon Lasso. So paint this with basic colors, and this is all basic digital painting. I'm not getting into any fancy stuff here. All right, so have fun on this. Okay, the next lesson is going to be advanced. So with an advanced lesson here, and by the way, you're going to save this like you've done all the other times. Save file, save as, call it your name, and call it basic digital painting, and save it in your file. Okay? But I'm not going to go through the steps. You know what to do. Okay, so we're going to close this, and we're going to start an advanced idea. So create new. Once again, 8.5 by 11 US paper, and you create. Make sure it's white, and make sure it says RGB color, because sometimes it may go to grayscale and you have some trouble. So make sure it's RGB color. Now, this time you're going to place in bed one of your drawings in pencil, one of your pencil drawings. All right, from the cute dog to the owl to the bird, whatever you drew. Okay, so you're going to go File, you're going to go Place Embedded, and here I drew this drawing of Tiberius over the summer, and I'm going to place that. And it snaps right into the picture. Now I want to double click, it becomes a smart layer, right click, rasterize layer. This is an advanced idea. Now the background, the document I worked on was a yellowish tone. And by the way, you notice how I went right to the move tool, got out of the polygon. Always remember that move tool is a safe tool to be in Photoshop. All right, so I want to get this yellow background color out of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to desaturate. Here's your keyboard for desaturate. Shift Control U or Shift Command U if you're using a Mac. Shift Command U or Shift Control U. You can also find that up here in one of the tools, but for the sake of time, use the keyboard command that I gave you. Shift Command or Shift Control U. That desaturates. Now I want to go Control L, which is levels, and I want to use the input level right here. I'll move it over so you can see it. The input level. And I'm going to make that a little brighter, not too bright, but just to clean it up so it's lighter. And I'm going to push back my value a little bit, my gray tones, and pop the black a little bit. So I'm playing around with this to get the right coloration in it. So it looks more white and it looks more, take that gray out of it. Okay. And I'll push this white just a little bit. So you're going back and forth until you get it just right. Some people say, well, can you use the output levels? Well, yeah, you can tweak it a little bit, but just be careful with that. I'd rather you use the input levels, okay? And that's getting pretty close there. So I hit OK. Now I'll come over here to this polygon tool because I have a scorched area and I want to get rid of that. So I'll just use a Polygon Lasso tool and I'll get rid of all of that. Double click and backspace it. And there you have it, Control D. And I don't need my name here either, so I'll get rid of that. You may want to keep your name, but I just wanted to show you how you can get rid of things. And I want to go to a soft eraser and finish this up. So with a soft eraser, make sure it's soft right here. You drop the opacity. You could drop the flow. That's how quick it works. Watch this. You can make your tools bigger by hitting the bracket key. So I'm using the right bracket key, and I'm making that brush bigger. And I could just get in here and softly keep erasing things that bother me, like some of these speed lines, shading lines. I'm getting rid of that with the eraser. Clicking and dragging and getting erasing these areas. And that looks pretty good to me. All right, now, what you're going to do is you're going to use this Polygon Lasso to lasso up the hat. But before I do anything, I want to call this layer line. So I double click on the word and I call it line art. Okay, that line art needs to be what? Multiplied right in here. So I click here, multiply it because I want to see through it like I did with the JBass basic, the basic techniques. So this is advanced because first of all, you're working with your own pencil drawing, and it's advanced because we're not going to be able to use the magic wand. We have to select everything with the Polygon Lasso, or you can use a free lasso, but you'll have more control with the Polygon, trust me. So I make a new layer, drag it under the layer art. This is multiplied so I can see through it. Call this layer hat. We're going to work on the hat. Okay, Alt, scroll in, and I'm using the space bar to navigate, bring it down. Okay, and with this Polygon Lasso, I simply start clicking and left click. Okay, now I just move the mouse. I'm not clicking now. I'm just moving the mouse. You pull out the polygon and you click to anchor it. Left click and drag, left click and drag. So every time you left click, you're anchoring the polygon tool. And it's hard to see, but it's clicking. And you can see it there a little bit. What I want to do is follow my line, my art line, go around it. When you go around curves, you want to click quite a few times. Click around curves with multiple clicks because that establishes more of a circular look with the polygon. And you got to get in there real tight. You got to come out of that corner, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag. Go around when you go around curves, you click and drag quite frequently and make short intersections with the polygon so that it's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to click drag around the top of Tiberius's head, the bottom of the bill of the hat. Click drag, and you'll get used to this after a while. And I'll do a little diagram on the side to show you how easy this is. I know some people are getting confused. They can't see it. I'll pull it out. You can see it there. But you're clicking and dragging right in between that black outline. Go around the ear, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag. It's moving, you just can't see it. But you know it's clicking and dragging there. You can actually zoom in closer to see there it is. When it's on the lighter pencil line, you can see it. And I'm clicking and anchoring small little lines until I get to the close. And when it closes, you see that little zero, a little O. That means this selection has been closed. And you can see the marching ants going around the selected area. All right. And I'm going to choose a blue for the hat. That's a good blue. And what's the fill-in? Someone say Alt Backspace. Boom. On a Mac, it will be Alt Delete. All right, Alt Delete. On a PC, it's Alt Backspace and Control D. And there you have it. So once again, using that polygon, watch this. I click, and if I make small lines, I'm clicking and drag, click. I don't make long ones, I make short ones. It looks like I'm making a circle. And I can make little curves just with straight polygon. And once I do that and close it, it looks curved because it's set up under anti-alias, and that makes it have a smoother look. And what's the fill-in? Alt Backspace, or you can go to Paint Bucket, and I'll just Paint Bucket that real quick. Control D. Now, I want to show you something. I'm going to zoom in on that. I'm going to go Control Alt Z, backspace that a little bit. I'm going to zoom in on this because I want you to see something about, whoa, I want you to see something about pixels. If I feather this while I'm in this polygon tool, watch this, right click feather. I feathered that at like maybe a 7 radius. Watch how smooth that smoothed it out. Now, if I do an Alt Backspace, it smooths it out. You may want a smoother edge than a harder edge. Okay, I'll go back and show you the difference between the two. Alt Backspace. See how hard that is? So you can make it smoother. Maybe it was too soft. Okay, so right click feather. Instead of 7, maybe we'll do 3, smooth it out more, and we'll do an Alt Backspace. You may want a smoother, more realistic edge than a hard edge. So if I turn off the vision, you can see how this edge is harder in comparison to this. And this is something I like to do, to soften up an edge. Okay, let me hasten on. I'm doing a lot of talking here. Control 0. I want to get rid of this little diagram here because we don't need that. Okay, and then we'll delete that or backspace it. Turn the vision back on so you can see the lighting. You can see the lines come through. Once again, if this is what? Normal, you can't see it. Okay, you cannot see it. And I'm gonna go to this background layer and show you something. I'm gonna do a Control I, and you can see all of the things that I did to the drawing here. Control I again. Okay, so this has to be locked and you don't paint on this. All right, now on this hat layer, what I want to do is select pixels. Watch this. Select pixels. You select pixels by right-clicking in the thumbnail. Right-click in the thumbnail. This is the gray activated area. This is the thumbnail. Right-click in the thumbnail, select pixels. Now I'm going to create a new layer, and on this layer, this is going to be hat shade. And you're going to like this. So picking a darker blue, okay, with a darker blue, I'm going to shade this hat, okay. And how come I can't see this? Because this needs to be what? Multiplied. All right, lock it because you don't want to paint on it. We're painting on the hat shade. Lock it because you don't want to paint on line art. Lock it. We're painting on hat shade. We're going to come to the brush. We're going to drop our opacity to right around 50 something. Get a soft brush right here. If you got a tablet, you can work with a tablet, make that brush bigger. And I'm going to zoom in on this, Alt, scroll, space bar, left, bring it down, pan, and watch me paint right on this layer, the shade layer. And I'm painting under the hat. Make the brush smaller. I can paint right in here. Maybe this part needs some shading, or the top edge of the hat, just to make it look kind of Disney look, that Disney look to it. Disney always likes to shade the edges of their objects or their characters. So shading the edge makes it look good. I shade right here where the other part of the band is and under that hat. And because it's a light opacity, it's going down. Now notice, no paint is going anywhere but in the area that's selected. And I'll cut this vision off and you can see all the stuff that I painted. All right. Now, if you accidentally didn't go in an area that you want, that was too big or something, check this out. You can go back with a paintbrush, with an eraser, and make the eraser small, and it's soft, and it's opacity, and you can go back and subtract out what you painted. So you're erasing. So you're being very clever here with your erasing. Control Alt Z. All right, because I kind of like that a little bit. And I dropped the opacity here a little bit more so it's softer, more gradual. And I'm just cleaning up areas that will make this look good. All right, clean that up. So I want to keep that white. Could I give this a color? Yeah, on the next layer, I could color that maybe yellow. All right, come back to this layer. I could clean it up here too. Just paint right into that area because I'm cleaning it up on the hat and I'm making that white. It's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with this. So guys, have fun. Control D, Control 0, and there you go. All right, you're gonna start painting your own artwork using this technique for shade and the Polygon Lasso, left click and drag. Have fun. And of course, you want to save it, file, save as, and this is going to be saved as a JPEG, and you put your name and the name of the lesson. Save it in a folder that you have designed for my class and ultimately get it in your Google Drive. All right, have a good one.